The right to offend is not some pesky little part of freedom of speech that we have to put up with. It is the heart and soul and lungs of freedom of speech. It is the coursing lifeblood of human progress. It is the instigator of liberty and modernity and science and understanding. What a laughing stock today's student leaders are, that they can so casually dismiss the right to be offensive without realizing that their lovely, enlightened lives are the gift of individuals who gave offense. Offensiveness is not just something we have to begrudgingly accept. Offensiveness is the motor of human progress.
Now broadcasting from the Right to Offend Media Studios in sunny South Florida, bringing you the latest in politics, current events, art, and pop culture. This is the Whitfield Report Live with Sam Whitfield.
But giving offense is good. In fact, it's essential.
Well, hello there, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to today's Monday edition of the Whitfield Report. Hope everyone is doing well. Hope you all had a great weekend. And today is going to be a solo show for the Monday edition of the Whitfield Report. And this is the first Monday edition of the Whitfield Report we've had in a while, actually. I've been pretty busy doing, book promo stuff and whatnot for the past weeks, which is kind of why I've only had the Wednesday show for the past couple weeks. In all honesty, I've just been busy on Mondays. And, if there's no guest on Mondays, which is when I usually do guests, that's, there's kind of no show then in that case. But on occasion, I will do these kind of solo Monday commentary shows, and that's what I'm going to do today. And in fact, I want to cover something that happened pretty much like after last week's program, Thursday morning, basically. And this leads me to believe, ladies and gentlemen, that that someone in the Trump White House, I'm not saying Trump himself or anyone in the main administration is listening to the program, but I do have a feeling, and I know for sure because people have told me that people in Washington, D.C., inside the Beltway, so to speak, have listened to this program. So we do have people in D.C. who listen to the show and who are friendly to the administration. I do know that. As far as people connected to the White House, I can't, make that claim or anything. However, I'm pretty sure that Trump is pretty much mirroring what I've said about this MAGA civil war for the last couple of months. He's sick of it, and we're all sick of it. And in fact, Trump made a post on Truth Social on Thursday, which kind of echoes this, and this actually became a big news cycle item, as it were. So, with that in mind, let me actually pull this up for you all. And, okay, let's see here. Alrighty then. So, this is a post as making the rounds a lot lately. And by the way, I hate the term MAGA Civil War because it's a term that Tim Pool came up with, and he's basically the ultimate grifter, so to speak, and the ultimate panic grifter, as it were to be said. The reality is, folks, there is no MAGA Civil War. It's mainly just a bunch of influencers, quote unquote, having a temper tantrum online because Trump isn't doing everything that they want him to do at the exact moment when they want him to do it, right? So this broke Thursday, and it's generated a ton of buzz, and people have said that Sam, what do you think of this? You need to cover this. What's your opinion? So I'm gonna go ahead and read this post from Trump's True Social. Now, the feed I'm looking at is on X, but it's basically just like, an RSS of Trump's True Social feed. So, anyway, so President Trump on Truth Social. I know why Tucker Carlson, Megyn Kelly, Candace Owens, and Alex Jones have all been fighting me for years, especially by the fact that they think it is wonderful for Iran, the number one country, the number one state sponsor of air, to have a nuclear weapon. Excuse me. Because they all have one thing in common: low IQs. They're they're stupid people. They know it, their families know it, and everyone else knows it too. Look at their past, look at their record. They don't have what it takes, and they never did. They've all been thrown off television, lost their shows, and aren't even invited on TV because nobody cares about them. They're nut jobs, troublemakers, and will say anything necessary for some free and cheap publicity. And now they think they get some clicks because they have third-rate podcasts, but nobody is talking about them, and their views are the opposite of MAGA, or I wouldn't have won the presidential election in a landslide. MAGA agrees with me and just gave CNN a 100% approval rating of Trump not hand-flailing, or Megyn Kelly, who nastily asked me the now famous only Rosie O'Donnell question, or crazy Candace Owens, who accuses the highly respected First Lady of France of being a man when she is not, and will hopefully win lots of money in the ongoing lawsuit. By the way, ladies and gentlemen, and I'm a little surprised that Trump didn't mention this, but I can kind of understand maybe why. You also, I'm sure people have seen this. There's that clip of Trump on Easter Sunday, and he's at Mar-a-Lago, and it looks like he's in one of the dining rooms, and he's presenting to like the room, and you can't see Erica Kirk, but Erica Kirk is, clearly at one of the tables or something. Trump calls her out, and says, "Good to see you," and basically tells Erica that she should sue the people who have been slandering her, and accusing her of murdering her husband because they're nasty people. And, obviously Trump is referring to Candace Owens in that instance too. But anyway, continuing on, I just thought just wanted to interject that too. Continuing on though, because this is pretty funny actually. Actually, to me, the First Lady of France is a far more beautiful woman than Candace. In fact, it's not even close. Or bankrupt Alex Jones, who says some of the dumbest things and lost his entire fortune, as he should have, for his horrendous attack on the families of the Sandook shooting victims, ridiculously claiming it was a hoax. These so-called pundits are losers, and they always will be. Now, fake news, CNN, the failing New York Times, and all the other radical left news organizations are hailing them and giving them positive press for the first time in their lives, which is true, by the way. They're not MAGA, they're losers just trying to latch on to MAGA. As president, I could get them on the side anytime I want to. But when but when they call, I don't return their calls because I'm too busy on world and country affairs. And after a few times, they go nasty. Just like Marjorie Trader Brown. But I no longer care about that stuff. I only care about doing right for our country. MAGA is about winning in strength and not allowing Iran to have nuclear weapons. MAGA is about making America great again, and these people have no idea how to do that. But I do, because the United States is now the hottest country anywhere in the world. So that's the text of Trump's post on Truth Social. And then here's the screen cap from Truth Social as well. But anyway, yeah, so this has caused a massive blow up on social media, especially over on X, and you have basically all the grifters like Tucker, etc., basically flipping out and saying, you know, Trump betrayed us. And also, like, Alex Jones has been claiming that he's the reason why Trump got elected in the first place for both MAGA 1.0 and MAGA 2.0. He's literally said that for years. And look, I don't want to get too much off on the weeds into Alex Jones here, but I've always had very mixed, you know, takes on Alex Jones, mostly negative. Like, I have to be honest, like, I've always thought his whole thing about 9/11 being an inside job was fucking retarded. I remember when I first heard him, like, back in 2007 or something like that, and he was the 9/11 truth guy, right? And he was buddies with the left for a while because he was anti-Bush, and the left at that time in the 2000s was anti-Bush. And look, I'm not, you know, I've come around. I'm not a Bush fan, you know, anymore. I've changed. But I still maintain that, you know, the government did not do 9/11. It was not an inside job. Mainly because, like, I just don't think that the government, especially the Bush administration, I just don't see how anyone could keep, like, you know, a secret like that for that long. And, you know, the conspiracies behind that just, you know, they keep shifting and nothing is conclusive and blah, 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 blah. I'm sure I'm going to get, you know, a flurry of comments and people being like, well, actually, Sam, you didn't consider this and that and I'm sure people are going to be writing like full paragraph, you know, essays and whatnot. But regardless, my point being is, like, I was always, you know, kind of sketched out, you know, on Alex Jones. And then when Joe Rogan had him on in like 2016 or whatever on his podcast, you know, I listened to him because I like Joe Rogan's long form interviews. And when you know, when Joe had him on, I'm like, okay, I kind of understand this guy's you know, mindset a little bit better. When Alex got deplatformed from YouTube and Twitter and all those other places, like, I was one of the first ones to say, like, yeah, I don't like this guy. I don't really like this guy. I don't really, agree with him. But him getting deplatformed was wrong. And, so I've been consistent on that with Alex Jones. Over the years, he has had some hits, but a lot of misses. One of those, like a broken clock, is right twice a day. And yeah, Trump did go on his show and did get some support, but he was never the sole reason why Trump won. I don't know why people think that. Tucker Carlson, people seem to forget, was never really a Trump guy or a MAGA guy at all. In fact, like during the 2020 election or immediately afterwards, like Tucker basically said that anyone who thought that the election was stolen was a kook, and he completely believed that the election was fair. And he wasn't a fan of Biden. I will say that. Like, I'm not saying that, but he basically like dismissed Trump as a kook in 2020. And then, I don't think he really supported him in 2024, at all. Like, now that he's pretending to be MAGA and, acting like Trump betrayed him is just not true. Plus, like, I don't know, man. After he left Fox, he just went off. He had a few good guests in his initial show, like when he had and they talked about the vaccine and whatnot, and how Hollywood basically violated HIPAA and whatnot. Like, I thought that was good, but then he started getting like all these like really esoteric, guests that no one had even heard of, and not just like unknown, commentators, but like, people who were like clearly out there, whatnot. And now he's he dove headfirst into the anti-Semitism thing, you know the the Jewish question crowd. Uh he platformed Nick Fuentes last year, right after Charlie Kirk's death, by the way. Basically, next to no questioning on any of Nick's like, you know, controversial views or anything like that, or any of the things that he's said in the past. Like, not even at all when Nick said flat out that he thought that Stalin was based or anything. Tucker just didn't cover it at all. And then last week, like we covered, Tucker was pearl clutching about Trump mocking Iran and mocking Islam, which, as I said last week, was hilarious and kind of like, yeah, fuck you to our enemy. And Tucker was pearl clutching. Of course, he's a Qatari asset. I wouldn't be surprised if he converts to Islam down the line. Like, I honestly wouldn't. I'm not necessarily predicting that, but like, I wouldn't be surprised either, because it seems like he would, just to like, own his haters or something. He's just flown off the deep end. And then, I mean, Candace Owens, I've done entire shows on why Candace is, that shit insane, why she was never a legitimate conservative to begin with. And so, I really don't need to rehash any old details. The point being is, all of the people that have basically exposed themselves as grifters and people who were just basically vampires, and grifting off of Trump's success. Like, Trump is smart, and he called them out. And again, he's not like canceling them in the sense that, he's not saying that they should be deplatformed or anything like that, but he's basically saying, no, you guys are lunatics. You guys aren't the reason why MAGA is a thing. It's the voter. And I don't want anything to have to do with you weirdos. And see, that's the thing, ladies and gentlemen, is right, as Max and I have talked about, like, there's the online, portion of the commentary. There's the online version of, politics. And there are all these commentary accounts, and, they're just constant, like, internet fights, back and forth. And lately, it seems like it's just, constant internet drama nonstop, right? And then you go outside and, in real life, and like, yeah, I mean, people aren't really happy about, Iran, but like, people are also cautiously optimistic, and yeah, people have worries about the economy still, but like, again, people are persevering and fairly like optimistic, right? And so this whole idea that there's going to be like a MAGA civil war, like I said, it's all, internet drama and podcast drama and all this stuff that like I've criticized for a long time as just being like theatrical bullshit, and Max is criticized as being theatrical bullshit. It's all very tiresome. And yeah, I realize that I'm a podcaster myself, right? So I'm not blaming the entire podcast sphere for like kind of like the constant state of the internet, but I will say this, like, it is tiring when I go on my Twitter feed, Twitter/X, or my Facebook feed, Instagram, what have you, and it's all, it's all MAGA Civil War, and, the base is divided, and Tucker Carlson says this, and, Candace Owens is, saying that Erica Kirk, may have killed her husband, and stuff like that. It's all tedious BS. And specifically with the whole Charlie Kirk thing, like, that's the other thing that's weird too, is we can all agree that Charlie Kirk's assassination was a tragedy. But there is overwhelming evidence that Tyler Robinson did it. In fact, just last week, again, there was more information released regarding Tyler Robinson's Discord logs, I believe it was, in which he was basically like bragging to his little Discord group that he killed Charlie Kirk. And yet Candace Owens is, keeps maintaining that like it was somehow, like that he was somehow a patsy, and it's somehow like, an Israeli like Mossad, deep operation, and that Erica Kirk and, Turning Point by extension is somehow involved in Charlie Kirk's, death. And when anyone actually pushes her for proof, it's, oh, well, tune in tomorrow or tune in next week. The internet had the internet drama crowd has turned Charlie Kirk's whole assassination into a true crime podcast shit show, basically. And Candace is mainly responsible for that. I never really liked her to begin with, but like, basically, since the end of last year, I despise her. And her and all, and all these other, grifting assholes who, want to claim that Trump is, an Israeli asset and that he's compromised and that he's, and that like voting for them was a mistake and all this stuff. Like, get the fuck out of here with that, honestly. When now they're all like saying that, well, we might have to, vote Democrat in the midterms to teach Trump a lesson. So yeah, now they're like they're basically all leftists now. Why? What are their motivations for this? Honestly, I have no clue. Probably because being anti-Trump right now is like really, good in the algorithms. Like, who knows? But I mean, these people are just pathetic. And by the way, like, I'm not saying that Trump is perfect or anything like that. Like, I understand why people are apprehensive about us being in Iran. Like, I get that. I understand that, the economy still isn't great. I'm not saying that like Trump is perfect, but the other thing is all these online personalities, they want Trump to fix everything within like the first year of his presidency. They want instant gratification and they don't understand that the left has been in power for the last 4 years. Prior to Trump, they were, in power for like 4 years. And then, in many like parts, across the country, like, far leftism has been entrenched, for like decades, right? And so it's not going to Trump's not going to be able to wave a magic wand and undo everything in 5 minutes. He did a crap ton his first year and he's continuing to do stuff. Like, the man is still, I think, on top of his game. Sure seems like it. Tucker and all these people were panicking, saying that he was going to start like a massive war with Venezuela. And we wrapped that operation up in like not even 24 hours. And it's looking like at the time of this recording, like there's been a ceasefire in Iran, and it's looking like hopefully the Iran ceasefire might be permanent. But no, all these, grifting assholes, they just want to continue to fearmonger and, make people panic and say that Trump betrayed them because they need, I think what it is, folks, is they need conflict. They need drama for their shows because, like or not, drama and conflict, like, it does, like, build ratings. And a lot of them have, sponsors or benefactors who they don't care about, like, being actual news pundits. They just want the drama, right? So their backers are going to insist that they make everything into a conspiracy theory and, like, stir the pot for clicks and views. And, it's an attention-based economy. And a lot of podcasters are willing to do anything to get to the top of that, like, attention economy, food pyramid type thing. And so oftentimes they'll say shocking stuff just to, go along with it. And just to, make sure that they get their, viral view. Meanwhile, what am I always doing? I'm interviewing authors, on the Monday show. I'm talking to actual experts, in law enforcement, in communication, in media. We've had lawyers on the Monday show. we had Rob Rosen on 2 weeks ago to talk about, like, the state of journalism. He's not, like, super far right, but he's not, like, far left either, and he's commentated on how this, kind of, like, podcasting, ecosystem in some ways has turned into a disaster, and, like, I hate to say it, but he's not, like, entirely wrong, and, I know what people are gonna say, "Well, Sam, you're a podcaster, like, you have, a Patreon and, like a buy me coffee and all of that." Yeah, but like I also have uh my book series, Shadows of Deception and Blood Ties, that you can buy to support the show. Like, I really, if ever, ask for money. I don't really paywall content at all. I did when we had the the exclusive, like, streaming contract with Rumble, but that's because we were in the Rumble Partner Program, and they kinda mandated everyone at Right to Offend Media to do so. So, but, like, as far as the main show, that's never been paywalled, not really. And yeah, you can, maybe say that, like, I'm not that successful, or, that, like, I'm irrelevant. But you know what I have that, like, a lot of these other, quote unquote, like, big influencers don't have? I have a real and authentic audience for my show. Like, a lot of these, big time shows like Tucker and Alex Jones, and I mean, not just them, but like a lot of live streams, a lot of them are bots, or maybe not bots, but people who just log in and watch the stream with, like, multiple accounts, and people who buy views, and that's, like, kind of one of the standards. And there are lots of, like, indie podcasts like mine, and like the Fake Untitled podcast, who, we don't do any of that. Our audience numbers might seem, like, minuscule in comparison, but considering that, like, we have actual, like, real, listeners and viewers, it's like, as much as we can quantify it, folks, the audience for the show is authentic. And I really appreciate each and every single one of you for that. And, like, we don't really cover a lot of, like, the quote unquote viral, news, or, talk, like, all the, in a drama, because it's, like, tiresome. It's been done to death, right? Like, I'm certainly not, Joe Rogan. I've never claimed to be, but, like, I do have an authentic audience, and I'm proud of it. Also, like, it's true that I was not MAGA day one, but when Trump won me over, like, in that first, really kind of like in the second presidential primary debate in 2016, like, I knew he was the guy. And, like, I was like, I was never, like, fully, like, MAGA, like, as a brand type of podcaster. But, like, I certainly, said, like, hey, I understand why people have the reservations about Trump, but, like, he's way better than Hillary, and, like, he actually is consistent in what he's saying. And so, he was, like, the first president I voted for, and, like, come to think of it, like, Trump is actually the only president that I've voted for within my voting lifetime so far. So yeah, like, I might not have been, like, a day one guy, as Alex Jones claims to be, but I've been, like, consistently following Trump, and he overall has done, a good job. And so really there's no really reason, for me to drop him, or, I'm certainly not going to vote Democrat like some of these people have said, because, like, really, what's, what is that going to solve other than, like, shooting us in the foot and giving, like, the far left power back? It really is absurd. And these grifting assholes, like Trump said, I think he said it best, they've never been MAGA. And they're certainly not going to be now. So there's been a lot of, I know there's been like a lot of hand wringing, from the internet, and a lot of, cheering too, like from people like me who thought that this was awesome and quite honestly much needed. So anyway, and I really don't have anything to say much more about this. I just spent 40 minutes, and yeah, I mean, basically, in short, if you want to know what I think of, what Trump wrote, like, I think this was a long time coming. I think it was absolutely, like, completely fucking based. And Trump did an awesome job handling this, and he's doing an awesome job handling, Iran. Maybe not perfect, but better than anyone else, as president in my lifetime, who they haven't even handled Iran. They've all kicked the can down the verbal road, so to speak. So yeah, I've got no complaints. And yeah, Trump is still kicking ass and taking names, and that's all I have to say about that. I'm sure we'll get into much more, on Wednesday's show as week progresses, and I'm sure Max and I will have, stuff to say on Wednesday, and I'm sure we'll be responding to what some of you guys have said about this. So I can't hardly wait, folks. We'll be back on Wednesday evening, 9 p.m. Eastern, as usual, live on YouTube, Rumble, etc. Until then, take care. God bless. God save this great nation. God, freedom, legacy, in that order. Buy my book, American Inferno, in the entire Shadows of Deception saga, available on Amazon and Audible, paperback, ebook, audiobook, all that jazz. Links will be down in the description as always, and I will see you guys soon. Take care, everyone, and like, comment, and subscribe, as the kids say.
The right to offend is not some pesky little part of freedom of speech that we have to put up with. It is the heart and soul and lungs of freedom of speech. It is the coursing lifeblood of human progress. It is the instigator of liberty and modernity and science and understanding. What a laughing stock today's student leaders are, that they can so casually dismiss the right to be offensive without realizing that their lovely, enlightened lives are the gift of individuals who gave offense. Offensiveness is not just something we have to begrudgingly accept. Offensiveness is the motor of human progress.
Thank you for watching the Whitfield Report live on the Right to Offend Media Network. Make sure to check out Sam's books on Amazon, Audible, and Kindle. You can follow Sam on X at SamW_NGC and the Right to Offend Media Network at RTO Media. Like, comment, subscribe, and share with your friends. And until next time, God bless, God save this great nation. God, freedom, legacy, in that order.